the leading international affairs journal in the United States, Foreign Affairs, the main journal. One of the lead stories in the current issue is about how much the invasion of Iraq strengthened al-Qaeda. A study that just came out by two leading terrorism experts using mostly government data concluded that what they call the Iraq effect, the effect of Iraq on terror, has been to increase terror sevenfold. That's quite an increase, and there are other examples.
So what would you have said would be a more appropriate response to the attacks of September the 11th? You wrote about 9/11, your book 9/11 is called 9/11. I wonder what you think would have been the best and most appropriate response for the US following those attacks then?
Well, those are criminal actions, serious criminal actions, and when criminal actions take place, what you do is investigate to find out who is responsible. When you have good evidence as to who is responsible, you apprehend them. If it's an international matter, as this was, international security forces, probably police would be best, could be used to apprehend them, bring them to justice, and try them. That's one aspect. Another, if you're serious about it, is to try to ask what the goal and purpose of the terror was and where it's coming from. And what you regularly discover, it's been discussed over and over again by specialists on terror, what you find is that the terrorists see themselves as kind of a vanguard who are trying to mobilize others on the basis of real grievances. They're trying to show that the grievances are felt and they're real, and they want to try to get people to join their cause by dramatic acts like terror. Well, if you want to stop terror, what you do is pay attention to the grievances and see if they're legitimate. If they're legitimate, then deal with them. That will reduce the likelihood of that the terrorists can in fact mobilize the forces, the groups that they're aiming at. In the case of September 11th, I think there's by now pretty good evidence that that could have been done. Right. The major studies of the jihadi movements, like Fawaz Gerges's excellent books, have shown that, and others too, have shown that the 9/11 style terror, al-Qaeda terror, was quite unpopular. In fact, elicited bitter critique right inside the jihadi movement. Okay, that gave an opportunity to use both the means of criminal investigation, yes, and apprehension, but also to address the grievances, exploit the differences that developed, and separate
Right.
the terrorist groups from the reservoir of support they're hoping to mobilize.
Well, Professor, one thing, you live in the United States, you call it your home, and yet you also call it a failed state. You believe it's a failed state. And I wonder why.
Well, actually, that's not quite true. I said that it's beginning to take on some of the characteristics of failed states. And it is. I've gone through the reasons. I could repeat them. And that's all the more reason for me to be concerned about it, the fact that I live here and it's my country. Sure, you're particularly interested in the places you care about and can't care about anything more than your own country.
Now, interestingly enough, in your recent book, Perilous Power, The Middle East and U.S. Foreign Policy, which you co-authored with Gilbert Achcar, you both support the idea that a major deterrent to democracy, especially in a place like the Middle East, is that the United States is actually opposed to it, which sort of contradicts the U.S. statements that come out of the government that say we are trying to promote democracy around the world.
Well, first of all, you should time those statements about promoting democracy carefully. Of course, there's always talk about promoting democracy. That's everybody always talks about that, but it's boilerplate. Didn't mean anything. When the invasion of Iraq was being planned and sort of sold to the country and to Congress, it was on the basis of what President Bush repeatedly called a single question: will Saddam Hussein terminate his programs of developing weapons of mass destruction? That was the question. That was the basis on which Congress approved the use of force. That was actually even the official internal motivation. Weapons of mass destruction, Saddam's ties to terror. Well, a couple of months after the invasion, the single question was answered definitively the wrong way. We know the answer. After that, months after that, the president announced what he called his freedom agenda. This is November 2003, to great fanfare. The freedom agenda is the real goals were to bring democracy to Iraq, to the Middle East, to the world. Nobody can take this seriously, of course, and interestingly, in Iraq they didn't take it seriously. Shortly after the president's November declarations, big headlines, a lot of excitement, a Gallup poll was released that had been taken in Baghdad. 1% of the population felt the United States invaded to bring democracy. 5% felt that the United States invaded to help Iraqis. Most of the rest concluded the obvious, which we all know, but we're not allowed to say.
Professor?
Furthermore,
Sorry. Yeah, a quick question, sir, based on what you just said there. I want to get to you. It's an email that came in from Mauritania. I just pick up on what you were talking about there. Safia Amar asks, don't you think that the U.S. policy in Iraq and Afghanistan is only triggering more hatred in the Arab and Islamic world? What would you suggest to limit those effects?
It's not just I think. It is definite. Steady studies are coming out. Another one just came out a few days ago from major polling institutions, which are showing exactly what the questioner points out. Yes, fear and hatred of the United States is growing. In fact, not just in the Islamic world, even in Europe, which is the region most sympathetic to the United States. The effect of George Bush's policies, particularly the invasion of Iraq, has been to raise the United States to the most feared country in the world. What should be done to alleviate this? First of all, to terminate the actions that are causing it, and then to deal with the real issues. Like, it would be a great thing if the United States were to support democracy, but it doesn't. And we know that. It didn't do it before 9/11, it doesn't do it now. If you want to, maybe the most dramatic example is Palestine. There were elections in Palestine in January 2006. Free elections, carefully monitored. Everybody agreed they were free. The population voted the wrong way, not the way the U.S. wanted. How did the U.S. react?
Right.
The U.S., with Europe trailing behind, immediately moved to punish the population severely for voting the wrong way.
Well, sir,
how can you look at that and say they're trying to promote democracy?
We got a call in just now.